Hello, my name is Todd, and welcome to a new year of game reviews on my channel, number by color. I didn't plan it for this way, but my first game review of the year is for a game that was designed to be relaxing, somber, and played at your own pace. And while the game does focus on death and coming to terms with mortality, I still think Spiritfarer is a great way to take a step back from all the craziness of both the real world drama and gaming world drama going on for the past few months. I really found it difficult to put the game down over the last week, especially the first night when I stayed up until 4 a.m. playing it. It's not perfect, but let me run you through the basics to give you an idea of what the game is and why you might be interested in checking it out yourself. Released in August of 2020 on practically every platform, Spiritfarer is the third game developed and published by Canada-based Thunder Lotus Games. Whereas their first two games, Jotun and Sundered, featured some form of puzzle solving and combat mechanics, Spiritfarer is a management sim a little more akin to Stardew Valley and Animal Crossing, though it does have some light Metroidvania elements. There's no way to lose, you can't really fail, and the game is meant to be a relaxing, slow-paced experience. But that doesn't mean it's boring. The game begins with you, Stella, taking on the role of the new Spiritfarer, the person who helps guide souls to the afterlife. Accompanied by your cat Dandelion, you come into possession of a boat and slowly welcome a host of literal spirit animals into your company. Your goal is to make sure these spirits stay happy as they prepare to move on to the next life. You'll sometimes learn from them, and they'll sometimes learn from you, but for each day they're on the ship, your connection will grow stronger. There isn't an overarching story here, there isn't any kind of tension slowly building, there aren't big revelations in the third act, and there's no exciting climax. No, the focus of this game is on the individual characters who board your ship and their interactions with you and the other passengers. Every spirit is unique and has their own stories to tell, and when a spirit is finally ready to move on to the afterlife, they'll ask you to bring them to the Everdoor. As I mentioned, the characters you meet come in a wide variety of personalities, and I found all of them to have their own charm, even the ones who are a bit more abrasive in nature. It can be hard to make a player care about so many different characters, especially when you know they'll all inevitably leave you at some point, but I think this game does a good job at giving you enough to work with, not only with those who join you at the start, but even in the case of the last few spirits whom you don't really get to spend a lot of time with. The truncated interactions were still enough for me to get a good idea of who these people were and why I should care about them. And even though I knew all of them would eventually leave me, I was always still somewhat sad when they finally asked me to bring them to the Everdoor. You won't have a strong connection with every character, and you may not always feel sad to see them go, but there were at least a few whose parting made me genuinely choked up. Like I said, the game doesn't have an intricate plot, but it does a pretty good job at making you invested in the individual stories of these characters' lives. They're not perfect, and some of them aren't really even good people, but they all have a humanity to them that makes them feel real, even though they're depicted as cute animals. From a gameplay perspective, you'll pretty much be doing one of two things at any given time: exploring towns and islands, or managing life on the boat. As you start bringing spirits onto your ship, they begin tasking you with either bringing them to some new location or crafting something for them. Your goal is to keep their mood relatively happy, and you can do this by building them their own house, cooking food for them, or giving them a hug. In return, each spirit has a useful skill to teach you, from using a loom to make threads and fabrics, to singing to your crops to get them to grow faster, to using the foundry to convert raw ore into ingots. And that's not even half the things you'll have to do in this game. Sometimes management sims can get pretty overwhelming, especially with all the different types of crafting mechanics, and even more especially when it starts making new craft items require several levels of crafting to create. In general, Spiritfarer does a really good job with telling you where you can find the items you need, and at times it even allows you to essentially choose which materials to mass produce. But there were a few occasions where I really couldn't tell what I was supposed to do next, because I either didn't yet have access to materials I needed, or I didn't know where to go to progress certain stories. Part of the frustration of feeling stuck is amplified by the fact that, as you choose your destinations on the map, you have to wait for your boat to arrive before you can continue your progression. Of course, while you're waiting, you can tend to your passengers and do some crafting, but there are times when you really just want to get to the next objective, and having to wait can become frustrating. There is a fast travel system, and you can eventually upgrade your ship to move faster, but it never fully solves the waiting problem. Actually, by the end of the game, you'll have so many things to do on the ship, like fishing, cooking, gardening, shearing sheep, milking cows, running the windmill, cutting wood, and spooling thread, to name a few, that having a faster ship is almost counterproductive. And because there's a day-night system, you'll really have to start managing your time wisely with all these game mechanics in play. In reality though, I didn't always mind waiting for the ship to travel. And because this game is meant to be relaxing, it can be nice to spend time managing everything while you wait. And when you finally do get to your destination, that's when the exploration mechanics come into play. In most cases, the islands and towns you explore are fairly linear, having you run from one side of the map to the other, sometimes collecting items on your way. Occasionally though, you'll find something preventing you from continuing on your path. In these cases, you have to return to that location once you've unlocked a new skill. The game does a pretty good job at teasing these blocked paths early on, making you want to find the skills needed to move past them so you can continue exploring. And there are a decent amount of skills to learn. They're not all useful outside of just being able to get past the current obstacle, but it always felt rewarding to learn something new. Overall, despite some frustrations here and there, I'd say this game has a pretty good mix of exploration and management. There are just enough hidden paths to make exploring feel worthwhile, and managing your boat upgrades and crafting always felt like you were making progress towards something. Even from the start, the hand-drawn art in Spiritfarer caught my eye. From the smooth character animation to the unique designs of the animal spirits, this game is beautiful to look at. Thunder Lotus is known for having hand-drawn aesthetics in their games, and they seem to improve with each new release. Almost every NPC in the game is one of two generic shapes, which can admittedly be a little tiring to look at after a while, but that just further enhances the individual main character designs. It really shouldn't be understated how good the art is, and how cute Daffodil is. Speaking of understated, the music in Spiritfarer has a perfect blend of ambient, sparse acoustic guitars and pianos, and even occasionally throws in some sitar. It's relaxing and always complements whatever activity you're doing at a given time. The general sound design as well is meticulously executed. From the mew of Daffodil, to the sound of the boat engine cutting off, to the murmurs of the characters when you talk to them, the aural landscape of the game was really pleasing to me. It may seem funny to talk about it with this kind of game, but these kinds of details help to add to the immersion and atmosphere of games, including management sim games. If you're someone who cares about trophies or achievements, you might be happy to know that you should have no problem getting the Platinum Trophy on a single playthrough. There are a handful of trophies that are missable and will require some planning ahead of time, including a few that require you to quickly shut off and reload the game, but everything else can be done without time constraints, and many of the trophies will come from playing naturally. According to my PS5, I played the game for about 42 hours, but it really didn't feel that long. I started the game on a Saturday and finished the next Friday. As I mentioned earlier, every time I wasn't playing this game, I was thinking about playing, organizing my thoughts, and planning my next session. It's one of those games where there's always something to be doing, which means you can never really get bored, and despite any perceived flaws I noticed, I still thoroughly enjoyed my time with it. I gotta be honest, this game was exactly what I needed right now. For the last few weeks, I've been so wrapped up in the future and current events that I haven't really allowed myself to fully relax. But every time I sat down to play Spiritfarer, I was able to calm myself and focus on the tasks I needed to do to progress the game. And even though I have a backlog of games to play, and there are a lot of games I'm excited for in the coming weeks, playing this game allowed me to release some tension I unknowingly built up over the last few months, and for that, I'm grateful. I didn't mean to get overly sentimental, but that's the effect that a good game can have on you. Have you guys played the game yet? What did you think? Like I said, it's not a perfect game, but I really enjoyed my time with Spiritfarer. But that's all for me for now. Thank you guys for watching. Like the video if you liked the video. Subscribe if you want to see more from me, and I will see you next time.